Welcome to the Retrospect podcast, a show where three guys come together from different walks of life and discuss a topic from their generation's perspective. My name is Ian, and as always, I'm joined by Stoney.
Hello.
And Jason.
Hello, everyone.
I, for a split second, almost switched it up on you guys, and then I stopped and had to correct myself. I almost said Jason first. I don't know if it matters.
Oh, it'd have been fine.
Whatever works.
Yeah.
Everybody week was okay?
It's been raining
It feels
like
just nasty outside, and, this is why I hate winter around here. It's just depressing. It's like people in Seattle. I don't know how they do that. How they live in an environment where it's so cloudy a lot, because I just get depressed when there's no sunlight.
I like it every now and then, but sometimes it gets to be a little unwelcome. And I think I'm just now on that cusp of it can go away now. I like it every now and then because it feels like I'm kind of a homebody in a way as well. So when it starts to kind of rain and I don't have any plans, I'm like, oh, this is nice. Right. It's relaxing. I can be home and it's like, oh, this is cool. But there becomes a point where you're like, okay, I want to kind of go out and about now, and I don't want to get soaking wet anymore.
Well, as a plant guy, that I love when it rains.
Of course.
Because the kind of plants I like to grow in my greenhouse, I collect rainwater, and that's how I water.
Fun.
Yeah, I can't use the water coming out of the hose pipe.
Oh, no.
It's,
a lot of suspicious.
The parts per million count's a little too high for those kind of plants.
Right.
What kind of plants? What do you do?
I grow carnivorous plants.
Oh, fun.
Carnivorous plants.
Yeah, I grow plants that are
Feed me.
Was that Seymour?
Seymour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got a little statue of Seymour in my office that someone gave me as a gag gift. But yeah, I grow carnivorous plants. I've been doing them for years. I kind of got into that hobby probably back when I was in college. Really? And I've been I've just been fascinated with those kind of plants. But
so is there enough around for them to feed on?
Well,
or do you have to buy flies?
No, I don't feed them at all. Now I do treat them with a little bit of a diluted seaweed-based fertilizer. I use Maxeo.
I didn't know you could do all this.
Yeah, it's I've got a friend of mine who's got thousands of them.
Wow. So they can either get nutrients from the ground or from...
they actually, believe it or not, derive all their nutrients. I'll say 90%. The plant has just adapted over thousands of years, or however long the plant took to reach that point, where these plants grew in areas where there was very poor nutrients in the soil. Mm-hmm. So the plants developed a mechanism in their leaves where their leaves adapted to be able to capture insects.
Wow.
So, and there are all kind of varieties of carnivorous plants. I mean, they're native here to the southeast part of the United States, what they're called the Sarracenias. They look like long trumpets growing out of the ground.
Yeah.
And we also have sundews here, and we have butterworts. But I also grow some nepenthes, which are actually native to Southeast Asia.
Wow.
Like Sumatra and those areas.
It's so interesting. I've never known this about Jason.
Oh, really? Okay.
That's one of the things where you just...
Maybe I failed to disclose that when I first came on the show.
I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it's funny how I can complain about the weather and then you learn something new about a friend and you're like, a hobby like this. It's fun.
But yeah, so I've been... I collect rainwater, because that's the only thing I can use. I can't use the hose pipe.
Can you imagine being Jason's friend and all of a sudden one of our friends just disappears and you never see him and you go, Jason, what happened to our friend?
Seymour got me.
You remember what happened to what's his name?
Oh, don't worry about him. He's going to go visit my friend Seymour real quick.
Yeah. Feed me.
Out of my greenhouse.
But interesting plants. I highly recommend looking at them. As I said,
maybe we could do a show on that because that's actually really interesting.
Well, we can definitely do that.
Cool.
I'm more than happy to talk about some of my babies.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, that's so when it rains, that's good, and when it doesn't rain, it's not so good.
I see.
Because I go, especially during the summertime, you go through water.
I believe it.
A lot.
Yeah.
And because you got evaporation, it's crazy. And then earlier last year, we had that drought. It went like almost 2 months with no rain.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was hot last
It was
summer.
hot. And it dried everything up. I literally ran out of rainwater.
Yikes.
I mean, I was like to the point where I had to use hose pipe water, and it believe me, they'll let you know.
Oh yeah, they were not happy with it.
This is not not good.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So they're very sensitive because they just they like pure water.
I mean, hey, that's what they're designed for, I guess.
So a little bit on carnivorous plants.
Yeah, right.
There we go. Hey,
what a fun time.
Yeah, right. Learn something every day.
Yeah.
I think we're going to do. Let's add that to the whiteboard. Please.
Right.
Carnivorous plants.
Okay.
Oh, we don't even have to plan for it. I already know.
Right. You're good.
Like,
right?
hold on. Let me grab my
no
book.
research necessary on Jason's
I love
part.
it. Well, just
speaking of research.
Yeah, go ahead.
Have y'all gotten any response back from our Madison Brooks episode that dropped last week?
I haven't heard a whole lot. I'm not gonna lie to you guys here. I'm not gonna lie to the fans at home. That one was a hard one for me to edit, just like I think Stoney had said in the episode. So after I got finished with it, I definitely took a step back and was like, I need to step away from these emotions and these feelings and all this stuff. So
well, first off, you did a great job editing that one because I know how hard that was.
Kudos to you. I know that was hard for you.
But I have received some feedback, and a large proportion of that feedback is because when we recorded that podcast, the very next day and the day after, so much information dropped about the situation and what was going on. So I'm not going to say we were premature on our podcast. I think we were on point. And
right. We just got stuck in the middle of,
Right. And so everyone that I've met and talked to about the podcast has asked for part 2.
Okay.
And they want more details. They want us to kind of timeline it out. And I think we owe that to our listeners. So if y'all don't mind, in the future, we're listening to you. We hear you, and we appreciate your input. And within a couple of weeks, we'll have another part 2 of the Madison Brooks tragedy.
Right. Talking about a lot of the more, like the details that really came out from that whole situation. So,
and
we're listening.
To segue into this topic, the weather today, which seems to be a major...
It's your weekly forecast here at Retrospect Podcast.
Fortunately, because of our weather and the clouds and the rain, there is a comet that is coming tonight.
Tonight?
Is it
called
tonight?
The Green Comet, coming tonight.
Okay.
And this is the night that we are recording, not the night that we drop this podcast. So
correct.
Can I just say for everybody, this is Thursday.
Right.
Okay. We picked this Thursday to record because of scheduling.
Of course.
And so tonight there is a green comet coming that has not been seen since the Neanderthals.
Oh my gosh.
And they actually believe that this might be the last time we ever see this comet. And since we have all this snarky rain coming right now, we won't be able to see it.
Oh, no.
So
you're talking about Comet ZTF is the one they're talking about. The last time it passed near Earth was 50,000 years ago. So we're talking about during the Ice Age. So in another 50,000 years, who knows what the Earth will look like at that time? But that's when the next it will come by.
I think some of what I was reading, they said the swing of it may send it out to where it might not come back this time.
Well, according to this, it said it made its closest pass by the sun on January 12th and will fly within a mere 27 million miles of Earth on February 1st. On its way out of the solar system.
Mm-hmm. Now, we'll be able to watch it through some internet stuff. Videos. And
I would love to see some of that stuff
feeds and stuff like that
with my own eyes, but I know that I probably won't be able to. But I know that there's going to be, is it astronomers? Is that
astronomers?
Is the correct term? I know there's going to be some people out there that are going to document it way better than I could ever see it. So I'm excited to see it.
I even was talking to Miranda the other day. I've always wanted to get like a really good telescope, not these little bitty 2-inch,
Yeah, one of the big guys.
4 foot long ones. I want a massive that has a little computer. I think they call them stellar computers on them to help you find certain things and look for these things. I would really like to do that because, and it seems fun.
Oh, yeah.
Even to be able to look at the moon and
I remember the first time that I had I was with a friend of mine. He did a lot of stellar photography where it's or like lunar photography moreover, where he had a bunch of lenses and tripods and the whole 9 yards, and I was able to go over there and help take like a really good picture of the moon.
Oh wow.
And because it was a full moon and we had a whole planned out, and he had the aerial, he had his whole thing. He did that. Like he took pictures of like the sky and would like form like nebula photos or whatever through through exposure or whatever it's called. And yeah, I remember being there and helping take like a few photos of the moon and like getting some like really crazy photos of it. Like I can imagine the same feeling of like being there with a telescope and like being able to pin it. Be super cool.
There's nothing like going out to an area where it's super dark. There's no light pollution, and to truly be able to behold the heavens.
Oh yeah,
the way that it's meant to be beheld.
Well, that was one of the things I liked about living in Colorado on the western slope. I lived almost 2 miles straight up. So you look down a mile to see the thunderstorm.
Yeah, you told me about that, yeah.
And there was, there was no pollution. There was nothing. When you saw the stars, it was just unbelievably breathtaking. And there was no pollution. There was nothing in the way. And
you could see the heavens the way it's meant to be seen. The way our ancestors thousands of years ago beheld the sky.
Yeah.
I've seen photos and it looks unrealistic, but I know that is just my ignorance of what the sky actually looks like.
Well, they're saying this comet is passing by at 128,000 miles per hour, and the nucleus is about a mile.
It's a little cruising speed.
That's right, huh?
Yeah.
And
not getting a speeding ticket.
That's right. And its tail is extending millions of miles.
Wow.
And they say it's going to be very beautiful. I kind of wish we could see this.
Yeah.
So,
is there any? Do you have any information on like? Is there like a good location, or is it just anywhere?
They're saying anywhere. You'll be able to see it. It's so close, and it'll be so bright. You'll be able to see it, unless you got clouds above you.
I see.
Guess what we got?
Well,
clouds above us.
If that's the case, that means that probably numerous people will be able to see it.
Oh, sure. And they have these viewings out across the world, and also there's some people that are showing it on live stream too.
I believe
you can tune in.
The people there's a lot of people that chase after eclipses and that like go and document like all the different eclipses that there are, and I didn't know that until.
Well, they find that is it the apex, and they travel to where that perfect spot is.
Right.
I've seen some real like wild pictures of the what is it called? Is it the lunar one that passes in front of the sun?
You're talking about like a lunar eclipse?
Yeah, or is it a solar eclipse where the moon... I forget the terminology. Which one is the one where the moon passes over the sun?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I think it's called a...
I think if it's the moon passes in... I think the moon it passes between the Earth and the sun.
That's a lunar. A solar is when the Earth
passes between the sun and the moon?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I'd have to look it up.
Because if that's the case, that means you're on this side of Earth, and the sun shines, and it casts, I think, a light over the moon. I don't know. We weren't planning on talking about this, but
that's okay.
The point,
it's still fun.
Yeah, right. The point,
it's interesting stuff.
Yeah. But I know there's people out there that are like, no, you're saying it all wrong. But the one I'm talking about is where the moon passes in front of the sun, and I've seen a few pictures and videos of that happening, of that massive ring in the sky and like the black hole, and it's super cool and like kind of terrifying looking, and like it's super interesting to get that the perfect lineup where you're looking at it, and it just looks like an apocalypse movie, a black hole sun or whatever.
Well, they say this comet is green.
They call it the green comet.
And the reason for that is it says a molecule called a diatomic carbon C2 is what is the kind of the what lends it to have this color. Now there's some chemical processes that are happening as the comet gets close to a heat source, the sun, and what the sunlight does to it. And
then think about that. That's been going on for 4.5 million years.
Well,
this is a time capsule to
the origins
of the universe.
Yeah.
And it's been traveling around since then and living its life. And
well, think about it. I mean, that's hard to imagine. 50,000 years ago. I mean, that's kind of awe-inspiring. It really is. The idea of time and in our lives spans are so short compared to some of this stuff. It's like, I mean, 50,000 years. What will the Earth be like in 50,000 years?
No clue.
I mean, as I said, 50,000 years ago, we were in the middle of an ice age on this planet.
Yeah.
I mean, the northern part of
Really?
North America was under 2 miles of ice.
Right.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean, think about that.
My perception
2 miles of ice.
My perception of time is is really screwy right now because I could have swore that was going to be a lot longer ago than that.
Well, as far as what?
50,000 years ago.
And you see, I'm kind of surprised that Ian didn't say something about me being in diapers then.
I mean, I don't think you're that old. But the thing, like for me, like when I think of 50,000 years ago, I guess let me rephrase this question better. How long ago was like Egyptian, era?
They say the pyramids were built about 4,000, according to conventional. I believe the pyramids were supposedly about 4,000 years ago. I think they're older than that, but that's another topic.
Yeah. That's a different topic for a different
and
day.
that one's coming. People.
That one's
Get
coming,
ready for
everyone.
that one.
But yeah,
But even if you round up to like 5,000.
Well, if you think about this, okay,
that's still
Jesus, 2,000 years.
Yep.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
Pontius Pilate and the Roman Empire was 2,000 years ago then.
Right.
But maybe 1,000 years to 5,000 years before that was the Egyptians kind of fell into that little groove.
That was the Bronze Age.
That was the Bronze Age. And so it's not really that far away. If you think about it, it's not really
even
that
if
far
you
away.
think, even if you think, but like record, like I mean, it's hard to even quantify a time for me in that regard. Because even if you think about 10,000 years ago, being when like we're probably making tools for the first time, or like getting a better understanding of how like civilization as humanity works. If we're just like really throwing out a big number out there, 50,000 is that times 5. The point that I'm making here is like you just saying 50,000 years doesn't sound that much because I know that like the Earth is probably millions upon millions of years old.
I think it's 4.5 billion.
Right. So it's like
old.
So I know that number, and so to think that like. Right. Is that just saying 50,000 feels like a drop in the bucket? But then when I realized it, I'm like, no. I mean, yes, but in relation to where we are right now, like that's crazy to me. Like I don't.
Well, that's what I'm saying. When you're dealing with time, when you're dealing with geologic time, and
right,
you're talking about space, and billions of years are thrown around like.
Like nothing.
Like anything. I mean, it's when you're talking about just Earth is 4.5 billion years old.
That's crazy.
That's just we can't. I mean, they say the dinosaurs died out 62 million years ago.
And what did they die from? An asteroid.
Impact.
And that's kind of what the topic of this is.
Way to bring it back, Stoney.
Yes.
Way to bring it back.
They found that crater during an oil exploration down in the Gulf of the Bay of, I believe it was the Bay of Campeche or right there in the Gulf.
Well, the topic of tonight's episode or today's episode, or however you want to look at this, was an asteroid coming by the Earth called 2023 BU. And it's actually the size of a UK Londoner bus.
Yeah.
And it's coming like relatively close by, or has by this point in time. The asteroid's 5 to 50 meters in diameter, which is just, it's a pretty good size. It would probably burn up, but it's still coming 2,200 miles away from the Earth.
Which is about the distance. And they say this is the closest a near-Earth object has come to the Earth and, recorded as far as they've been recording this stuff. It actually came to, or it crossed at the southern tip of South America. Mm-hmm. Is where it crossed. It was on the 26th of January.
Right.
Is when this happened. Around 7:27 p.m. Eastern time. And it was just about 2,200 miles above the surface, which is really about the distance between New York to, I forget what they said. It's not far.
I think the fun part for me about this episode, and I don't mean the podcast episode, I mean the rock episode, is that when did they discover it?
I think it was a Saturday before.
Right. And so one of the big things about this is this is showing the holes and in the detection of the asteroid equipment that we have on this Earth, because they discovered this a couple days before it got here. But very quickly, they were able to determine its trajectory and its path. But it sure surprised everybody, didn't it?
Well, I'm telling you, this is a bigger issue than what a lot of people, they've made some movies about these, asteroids striking the Earth and the destruction they would cause. But, we have been hit in the past. And they're finding out we've been hit a lot more than what they thought we've been hit. But because our planet is alive, we have weather that really kind of erodes these features and kind of hides them. Unlike if you look at the moon and you see all the craters on the moon.
And Mars.
There's no atmosphere to hide that or to wash away those scars. So they're all there to see. And, of course, we all remember what happened with, Shoemaker Levy or whatever it was, those multiple fragments that struck Jupiter that caused explosions that were as big as planet Earth.
Mm-hmm.
We're dealing with forces of nature that are, I can't even imagine the kind of energy that it's producing to make explosions that big from impacts.
Mm-hmm.
That's just incredible to me.
Well, but you also add a couple of things to that mix of the explosion. The metals that are on it, the chemicals that are on it, the heat that's in it, the cold that's in it, and when it finally hits its apex and finally hits something, is it just the velocity behind it?
Well,
what does it really do? They say it could be greater than the greatest thermonuclear bomb ever made. We're insignificant to that. We can't make a bomb that would do that kind of damage.
You're talking about the energy of orders of magnitude of 1,000 hydrogen bombs going off at the same time. That's just that's what I'm saying. The energy calculations are just beyond comprehension. I just hope.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We can only add in some math of speed, mass, and everything else, but you're not taking in consideration all of the composition of the elements and the chemicals that are on it. What would those things do in the explosion too? So can it exponentially make it even bigger?
Yeah, well, I guess it would depend on the material that the asteroid or the comet is made of.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a metal rocky core, that can cause a lot of damage.
Well, what is these new things the Navy has now, where it shoots this steel rod magnetically at such a speed that the explosion on the other end is incredible, and now we're traveling, 10 times that speed with a meteor. What's it going to do to the Earth? What do they call those? Electromagnetic guns or something?
What about
rail guns.
Yeah.
Rail guns. Think about that. Just that speed, that mass, and the explosion on the other end. We've all seen those videos. Now you're tossing something the size of a bus or even bigger and hitting the Earth, what kind of energy does that have?
Well,
just unbelievable.
I think they mentioned with this particular asteroid, the BU 2023, that because of its size, there was no risk
Real
of
threat,
it,
right?
Because it would have burned up in the atmosphere and broken up in little small fragments and
some minor stuff. It's not
right.
it's not a global killer.
Right, but now I will say in 2005, Congress ordered NASA to identify 90% of the near-Earth asteroids that were 460 feet or larger.
I don't think they've met that goal because they missed this one.
Well, I don't think this one met the criteria, but believe it or not, they did perform the first test called the DART mission that they deemed a success. They crashed an object into an asteroid, actually millions of miles from Earth, which would have been no threat, just to see if they could alter the orbit. And guess what? They did. So I think that this threat is at least taken seriously by the powers that be, that, for the first time, humanity is aware of these events that have caused extinction level events on this planet.
Just to put things into perspective, I was looking up like numbers and stuff. The asteroid at its closest point was approximately 2,200 miles from Earth, and in relation to that, from New York to Los Angeles is 2,800 miles.
So a little less of...
So a little bit less of a journey.
That's not very high up in the air. Right. That's it's
and then I was going to look up one more thing while we're talking about it. One interesting question that I have, this is, I don't want to derail the conversation, but it's a little bit of kind of a crazy question. What if, hypothetically, like a comet or a fragment of a comet was to land? Well, let's say like a comet is to fly by, like this green one, the green comet.
The green comet.
Yeah, I don't know.
Which is separate from the asteroid that just passed by Earth.
Let's say it passes through and it throws some debris down, and it hits Earth or whatever, and like it has a mineral or it has like some sort of quality that we have never experienced before.
Oh, I think that's possible.
I'm just saying.
Absolutely, think that's possible.
What could that let's think of it as like what if it's like a crazy power source that could, super accelerate the human race or whatever. Like my mind kind of goes to some like really crazy things. Like what if something is to come from far out of space, and we think it's one thing, but then like
what
it
if
could
it's
be
the
something.
opposite? What if some crazy zombie virus falls out of it too and kills everybody?
You're talking about some sort of exotic. Basically, they would have to create something on the periodic table,
something like that, like something that we've never heard of, never seen of. It's like, not to say that it's like not like a like something magical or whatever, but like it is like something that that is not something replicated like potentially around us, you know what I mean, like that kind of idea.
I mean, I don't know what else is out there now. I don't know what the the scientists would say is, we have the same, the minerals on Earth are going to be the same of what they find in Mars or the Moon.
Oh yeah,
because basically the universe was made of the same elements. Could there be an exotic material out there? Could be. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
or is it alien? I'm kidding.
Well, I mean, now I'm not saying that there could be an alien civilization that could, that had more advanced technology and, have been around much longer than human beings, that could have developed a new material from the elements. That's a distinct possibility.
The thing I was looking up, I was just curious as to what the orbiting height of the International Space Station was, and it's only 254 miles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you see it. I get an alert on my phone.
If you had a telescope, you can see it. So
really,
I get an alert on my phone every time it passes over my head.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. So
if the sky is clear, I've actually seen it. I went out to a telescope and
Yeah.
saw the International Space Station as it was going over.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I've never seen it before, personally. Or I may have.
If you can go to an observatory, because they times they'll do setups like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can see
Cool.
when it passes over. Yeah.
Up until a certain point in time, there had been no meteors found with non-earthly elements on them.
Okay.
But one in Russia, and they don't actually give a date, so we don't know when it arrived. It could have been here for a long time, but one was found in Russia that had some non-earthly, what we had found before, minerals or elements. So it's possible.
Oh yeah,
It's possible.
No doubt that
But
there's
they're saying
probably something out there that we haven't discovered yet.
I thought I was thinking of that like just as a hypothetical scenario. I wasn't actually asking like any kind of specific question. I just thought about like I saw pictures from this BU 2023 we're talking about of like I think there's some fragments that had fallen off of it as it was coming by, and people have collected like little meteor rocks from it. And I just thought about like how crazy of an idea could it be if like someone picked up that space rock and it's like we don't know what this is.
Well, there's a lot of people out there
cool
that
idea
go
to
out
think
there
of.
with these huge metal detectors on trucks,
Yeah.
and they go out to fields and they go out to this and they just ride around and map it out, and they find these huge meteors, and that's what they do, and they find them this size, little quarter to 50-cent size, and they find them, bowling ball size, and they dig them all up.
Yep, and they sell them.
And they sell them.
Right, universities buy them up.
Right.
I knew that. So, can you imagine one come crashing down your house one night?
That'd be scary. That's crazy to think about.
Imagine it happens.
It
I mean,
happened to somebody in
little
Florida
bitty
once.
fragments or something.
It happened to somebody in Florida once, except that it was a blue ice ball.
No. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It came out of a jet. It was the toilet drop inside of a jet.
Oh.
And they were like, "Oh, we found this. It's amazing." Until it was somebody else's poop.
It's not. Yeah.
It's not a meteor,
It's
people.
not a meteor.
Mm-hmm. But it went through the roof of their house.
Yeah. How would you deal with the insurance on that one?
Because that's not a God incident.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if that's not an act of God, I don't know what is.
It's just a bad coincidence.
I guess you have to have a meteor rider policy, right?
man,
I don't know.
Well, believe it or not, because of that authorization, they are constructing a new telescope. It's called the NEO Surveyor. It's called the Near Earth Object Surveyor. And I pulled an article on this that said it just passed a rigorous technical and programmatic review. So now the next phase is establishing its technical, cost, and schedule baseline. So the goal of this thing is to actually put this thing in space, and this thing will be able to detect some of these hard to find.
Wow.
So. I mean, we're making progress in trying to protect our planet from this threat.
What is the old saying? Necessity is the mother of invention. It's like no one really cares about it until we get awfully close to it not
I
being
think
a
this
good
is a
scenario.
Possibly fun moment to discuss a upcoming episode called The Great Filter.
Oh,
And I want everybody to stand by because this is going to be a great episode. But there is an idea and some thought process on, is the universe, does it just have a normal, natural, great filter on maybe while we're alone, and the ability to get past these asteroids as a civilization might be one of the natural filters of the universe. So we're not going to go into a lot of detail about that, but we're at the cusp of now these meteors and asteroids are coming a little bit more frequently.
Right.
And Are we going to be able to get past that? Because I really don't think the Bruce Willis Armageddon thing is going to really fly in this.
Yeah.
You know, it's a great movie. Love the movie.
The idea of
It's
landing
great.
on it and doing all that. No, I don't.
And splitting it to where it just magically, goes on both sides of the earth. Great movie. Did y'all do that on the Aftermath?
No.
Oh, really?
I mean, not
What
yet.
what?
I mean, we have a lot of movies to go through. There's a lot of movies in history. We just now recently watched Total Recall. It was the first time I watched it for the first time.
The original
one.
Really?
And it was super good.
Yeah.
It was a little
I
throwback.
love that movie.
Yeah.
I love the remake they did in, was it 2012, I think?
Yeah.
So
Speaking of, talking about space and everything, potentially going to Mars and colonizing it in some way. It's like same sort of thing as if we can get to a point where we can travel through space a little bit better, could it be
well, that's kind of talking about going into
I
that great
know,
filter
I know.
stuff.
I'm just
because
tiptoeing.
We're
I'm
gonna
just
get
saying.
it. We're
of,
tiptoeing.
of being able to colonize all the worlds. I don't know if we're there yet.
Yeah.
As far
I just
as-
think, I think it's like you were saying, just to kind of to wrap up this, kind of summarize what you're talking about. If we can conquer the threat of random rocks being hurled at Earth, and we can potentially move to another planet, I think that is one of those big stop gaps we're talking about.
But let me really mess with your head. What if they're not random? What if there is extraterrestrial things out there going, I don't think they're ready yet, and I'm going to swing this little rock in their direction and smash them.
That would be terrible.
Probably so.
I mean,
it's possible.
I mean, the idea to me, I have always, it was a sense of wonder growing up to what it would be like if we're like Star Trek, where we've broken that barrier. We're with other species in the universe. If such things would exist, that we had the technology to travel to the stars and do all that. I mean, we're talking many centuries down the road, unless there's a technological breakthrough that just completely revolutionizes energy propulsion and that kind of thing. But wouldn't it, I've kind of had a sense of wonder about that. It would be cool that somehow if you could kind of put yourself in stasis and wake yourself up 500 years from now, to see the advances that would be made, because there would be. I mean, there would be major advances made. I firmly believe within the next 300 years, we will have mastered that sort of travel. I really do.
I recently, and when I say recently, I mean like last night.
That would be recently.
Have learned something about myself fundamentally. I have talked about this idea and talked about things associated with this for me that really gives me a sense of dread. Not scared about aliens, not scared about the emptiness abyss of the sea or the space that is, our solar system. That doesn't really fill me with dread. The thing that fills me with, that scares me the most is, I'm gonna summarize what I think I found out. And I am a creature of habit, and I like routine, and I think I'm okay with change in my life. I think especially if it's like small and incremental, but a lot of times if it's like big, drastic changes, that I think would stress me out on a smaller scale. Whenever we're talking about something fundamentally like upending everything, like a total change, like you're saying, like if you were to go into stasis and then to wake up and then 500 years later in the future, everything's different. Maybe if I was to go into that, I'd be more okay. But the idea of that freaks me the hell out. I don't like it. I'm
going to say, because I know this would cause you some dread, but we also found out in a past episode that the alien component doesn't really cause you dread, because didn't we find out you wanted to have sex with aliens?
No, we did not.
I think X-Man and I would.
I'm not going to go there about
Thank
that.
you. I appreciate that.
I've heard some other things about that, so I'm just going to refrain.
The point that I'm making is it started off with a conversation about time dilation with a friend of mine, where it was like you could potentially go to Mars and then come back, and because time dilation is a real thing, the perception of time is different because you're traveling at the speed of light. Maybe if warp travel's a thing that we get to, You don't have to worry about it. But right now, if you're on Mars in relation to Earth, time works differently. So when you come back, a certain amount of time, like Interstellar had kind of talked about.
Yeah, Interstellar did a very good job of
and that,
really kind of addressing those issues.
And that scares me because we talked about a movie where time dilation was a thing, and these people were traveling back to Earth at the speed of light, and it took them not long to get back to Earth, but because of time dilation, it would have been 12,000 years in the future.
Oh, wow.
And that, when I thought about it, fundamentally, I was like, I do not like that. It gives me that goosebump feeling of like, this makes me feel uncomfortable, because what if you were to get back to Earth and there's nothing there?
Or Planet of the Apes.
It's like, or it's like,
or the Planet of the Apes.
Or it's like
one of my favorite movies, by the way.
Yeah, is like, so. And again, and we talked about it because
original one.
The original one.
I even like the new ones. I'm gonna be honest.
Okay,
I did like the new ones too. I thought the original ones were a little more original. I hate to be cliche like that, but the new ones did some things that were pretty fun too. Mm-hmm. But can you imagine zipping up and then coming back and seeing, what is it, Charlton Heston?
Yeah, they got
bastards! You finally did it, you bastards! You know, at the end of the movie,
I think they got caught in a time warp or something, and
but
they got in a storm.
This is what I'm talking about. Is another thing that the reason why I was able to figure it out is because we watched Total Recall, and a very similar thing happened. The more I started thinking about, what if you were to wake up? What if someone is to contact you and say, you are currently dreaming, I'm going to wake you up and you're going to be in your real life, kind of like the Matrix too. It's like, which one's real? Is this dream life real, or is the real life real? And if I'm living this dream life, do I really want to be woken up from it? So anyways, the point that I'm making is, like, when I thought about that fundamentally, about being in Total Recall and having like this memory event of things happening, going on a vacation, like a mind vacation of some kind, and then to wake up and be in your real life and none of that, and time will have passed and things will have happened, but none of it was real, or everything has changed, like waking up from a bad dream or a good dream. And I started thinking about that. I was like, that makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't like talking about that. And that's one thing that makes me curious, talking about space and space travel and what does that look like. Is time going to be one of those things where we have to watch out for? Because I started thinking about it, like, I don't know what the time dilation looks like from Earth to Mars, but let's say you get there and you come back and it's been a handful of years. Will we have to implement policies of some kind where, like, it's a one-way trip? Like, if you're going to go to Mars and you're going to go colonate Mars, like, you can't come back. Like, you can't fare back and forth, at least not until we get better technology. If you go there and you're going to leave your family to go there, there's a potential whenever you come back, if you come back, it's going to be many years in the future, or things may be different, or, could that be?
I mean, just the distance between Earth and Mars, I think to do a manned mission to Mars, I think I saw it would take 2 years.
Okay.
Now, I'm not aware of time being stretched.
Well,
I think the problem you get into, where the kind of the movie Interstellar touch, is when you're talking about black holes.
Oh, I see.
That's where because of the gravity affects
right.
time, because
it
of how
time.
It bends it.
But
so
if you were to travel to Mars at the speed of light, it'd only take you 3 minutes.
Right.
So it's that, I don't know if that time dilation, but if you were to travel, say, 40 light years at the speed of light,
right,
and then came back, I think you could have some time dilation.
Okay, I see what you mean.
But from here to Mars,
no.
But I mean, still, it could be a good hypothetical thing to think about. Is like, if it's going to take you 2 years to get there, you really have to plan. Like, you're going to get there, and you really can't easily get back. So if you're going to be there, you're going to have to set down some roots there for a while, and you got to say goodbye to the life you have.
Well,
anyways, we're probably getting off subject here, but it's a cool.
I just kind of want to let people know out there are people out there. There are efforts right now being worked on to produce this NEO this telescope that's going to put out there. It's going to be sent out to an area between the Earth and the Sun, and it's to be called the Lagrange point. The L1 Lagrange point is where it will orbit, and it's a 5-year mission. And so this will be able to detect some of those hard to find objects that conventional telescopes we have right now cannot detect, just simply because the technology is limited. But it's going to use infrared wavelengths, so which are invisible to the human eye. So there are efforts out there being done.
That's crazy,
to
man.
to be able to find these objects, because I really believe people are waking up to the threat. I mean, look at Tunguska, what happened over Russia.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? Several years ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
Remember that small
Mm-hmm.
that small rock came through, exploded, and just, I think it injured a lot of people.
Yeah.
It blew out windows for like a 30 square mile radius. And that was a tiny little object. So you can imagine what something maybe the size of, Apophis would come in and do. I mean, it would be a terrible day to be alive on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes,
If that would hit. I don't know if our technology is good enough to really stop these asteroids like this. I mean,
and so, listeners, listen to the Great Filter when it comes up, because this might be one of those points in life.
This may be our what is it called? Our prologue to the Great Filter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
just to, you got me thinking about that, Ian. From the sun at the speed of light would take 8 minutes.
Okay.
Pluto, 5.5 hours.
Jeez.
Alpha Centauri would take 4.3 years at the speed of light.
Wow.
And then you got to think about these asteroids are traveling pretty fast, but not near the speed of light.
Right.
Speed of light is 186,000 miles per second in a vacuum, mind you.
Right. That's nuts.
Well, I'm going to tell you, you start talking about this kind of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of things going on right now with.
But the Earth is not prepared for this.
No, it's not.
We're
I mean,
not prepared for this.
I mean, if we want to go ahead and bring it right back down to Earth, like we have a hard time dealing with pollution in our own atmosphere is like, heating up rapidly. It's like we're having a hard time dealing with things down here, let alone dangers up there. I feel like
we live in a shooting gallery. I mean, space is
it's a shooting gallery. That's
space
right.
is messy. It's there's a lot of objects whizzing by at tremendous speeds, and we're just lucky we have Jupiter. That's gravity
sucks up most of it.
Sucks a lot of them and keeps them over there.
They had some great videos of some comets hitting Jupiter.
That was Shoemaker-Levy.
Yeah. Yep.
That was what I was talking about. I mean, if you can imagine explosions the size of planet Earth, I mean, that's just. I mean, it kind of just makes you how small you really are. In the universe. I mean, it's just. We have a precious planet, and it's a beautiful planet. And, I mean, from what we've been able to find so far, we haven't been able to find anything yet, Mars looked like at one time may have been a habitable planet. Something happened to it.
Probably a meteor.
Well,
an asteroid.
some say that the core of Mars, which is the key to why Earth actually has an atmosphere, is the molten core of our planet.
Oh, okay.
Keeps the magnetics, the magnetic poles around. It's actually what keeps an atmosphere stable.
Okay,
so, yeah, I mean, but with Mars, they say Mars that kind of stopped, and when that stopped, your atmosphere burns away, and what do you have? You have nothing but rock. So they say at one time there was water on Mars. It all dried up, So it just
that's
sucked off into space. I mean,
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
But Mars is the most Earth-like planet, I think. Next, I mean, some say Venus,
right?
But Venus is basically a runaway greenhouse place.
Venus is bad, from what I've heard. I think Venus is the same size as Earth in comparison, right? Or is there more?
I don't know. I have to check the sizes of the. They're close.
I thought that was the big thing.
I think Mars is a little smaller than the Earth. I think Venus may be. They may be close.
Interesting. And I love how we're just talking about these fellow planets like we can just go there. I know hypothetically, like it's a cool concept. I would love to get to a point where we can actually like have boots on the ground on Mars. It'd be crazy, but man, we got to do some real work for that. And I feel like we got to like unify. That's the hard part.
Well, what? Now you're really getting off into another thing.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
You really are
think-
getting another thing. What is going to be the only thing to unite humankind? I mean,
a common enemy.
I just don't think we're
A massive asteroid coming to get
yeah.
us.
And it would, because
I
it
think-
threatens the whole planet.
I still stand by a common enemy. If we can all get behind and say this one thing is a threat to all of us, is the one time we'll all.
But even that, I mean, I think it's going to take a little bit more. It's going to be. You're going to have a prolonged existential threat that people have to fundamentally put aside.
Long-standing.
I would say our tribal instincts, because in essence we're tribal.
Yeah.
So what if it's this new telescope that's going to come out, and it's going to see this massive asteroid the size of the moon that swings by every 15 to 20,000 years, and the gravity pull of this moon or asteroid is actually what shifts the Earth's gravitational rotation and makes it spin the other way, and it does that every 50,000 years, but we just can't see it. Here it comes, and our new telescope is going to show it.
Space is
Well,
nuts.
I'm really looking forward to seeing what this new telescope actually does. But it actually will build upon the success of its predecessor called NEOWISE, the Near Earth Object Wide Field Infrared Survey Explorer. So, I mean, they're working at this. They say the repurposed from the WISE Space Telescope. They said that mission ended in 2011. NEOWISE proved highly effective at detecting and characterizing near-Earth objects. So we've been doing this now for a while. Mm-hmm. So they've been doing something since 2005. I forget what was it, 2005. That what came about in 2005 that
in 2005 Japan launched a probe that went to some asteroid, and they were going to take some samples from that and wanted to come back to Earth, and I think it made it back. I think it made it to the tail of the asteroid and pulled back some of the minerals and things from the tail. I don't know if it made
mining
it to
asteroids. That's going to
be the money.
I think once you can start doing that, now you've got pretty much unlimited resources.
Mm-hmm.
To me, once you get to a point where no one is really going without.
Right.
Once you can kind of get unlimited energy, then I think that's the game changer. That's the step that all of a sudden now we're not fighting over resources anymore. We can get them out there. We don't have to just rely on planet Earth to get our resources. Whenever that point comes in the future, that to me would be a game changer. Because at that point, once you have everything, then you're not really competing against one another anymore. Mm-hmm. If I got all the energy I need, then I can help and then that's when humanity as a whole, I think, starts to kind of come together.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, there we go.
Ooh, buddy. Wow. What a trip. I'm telling you, the more we talk about space stuff and we start talking about these like big, lofty ideas that are not super crazy anymore, and seem very much like we're approaching the future, it's like we're heading there really fast. And it's kind of scary, but at the same time, it's really exciting.
I think one of the next steps for this space travel thing, you see all these private companies getting into them. Elon Musk and what's the Virgin guy? What's his name? Branson?
Sir Richard Branson.
Branson. There's thousands of dead satellites in our atmosphere that have millions upon millions of dollars of gold, platinum, and silver in them. I wonder if their next step for those guys is to capture the dead satellites and pull them down and get the minerals out of those. because that's
Like,
a lot of money.
Recycle them.
Recycle them. That's what I'm talking about, and pull them down and because you can't have copper wire in space. Doesn't work. All the wire is gold. That's the best conductor. So what if that's their launching pad?
There's
to
a lot
the
of there's a lot of
asteroids?
space junk out
Right.
there.
That's what I'm saying. So that's the next step, and then like Ian's saying, the next one, and you're saying, is mining asteroids.
The thing that's crazy,
Mining the moon.
I don't understand. I don't understand fun. I have said this on this podcast before, but I'll say it again. I'm able to hold this phone in my hand and understand fundamentally how it works and why it works. But if you're to really tell me to break it down and tell you how this computer works, I have no idea. It's the same way with like the Mars rover, or with, you're saying, this thing that got minerals from the tail of an asteroid. How do you control something out in space like that? Like, I feel like I understand, like, oh, it's probably just like some sort of wireless something or another.
I mean, radio waves.
But
Or a program
radio
that's
waves
already
travel at the speed of light.
I know, but I mean, like, fundamentally, like, how, I know there are people out there that get paid way more money than I do to like facilitate that, but it puts me in a level of awe that I'm like, that you have this thing out there that you're controlling from here that can do that sort of stuff. It's just that in and of itself is mind-boggling and crazy to me. Just these little small things, let alone, you know.
Well, I have to give credit to the astronomer who actually first identified this recent asteroid. He's actually from he's Crimean, from Crimea.
Yeah.
I believe that's the way it's pronounced. He's an amateur astronomer. His name is Gennady Borisov. And I'm sorry if I'm butchering this name. But Gennady, and the last name is Borisov. So, if this podcast would ever reach this gentleman's ears, I apologize for butchering your name.
And kudos for finding
that. And it looks like he's found others too. So
that's crazy.
Wow.
But it's
Gotta be looking.
It's the work of a lot of times the work of these amateur astronomers that are doing a tremendous amount of work.
Yeah.
And identifying a lot of these little small rocks that are traveling. You know, it's like a shooting gallery out there that, you know, luckily we don't get hit. Very often.
I still love I still love the mental image I have of what Stoney said of just an alien race being super advanced, but going, you know what? I don't like the way those guys are looking at me. I'm just going to go ahead and throw some rocks their direction. I just love that picture in my mind. They may have the best intergalactic laser weapons, but like, you know what? No, let's go ahead and shoot some asteroids at them. See how they like that. It's just toy with them a little bit.
Let's just say, what if we were planted, and this race doesn't like what we're doing? Well, you don't want to use some type of weapon that can leave proof that you were here. So I'm just going to sling a rock and destroy it, start all over again. And
a little accidental slip of the poison in the soup, if you will.
Well, that's kind of what happened in that series, The Expanse.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They used an asteroid to hit Earth.
Wow.
And it was a rival faction of humans that basically have set up in the asteroid belt.
Wow.
And they mine asteroids, but a whole society evolved, and Earth has become kind of a bad guy, so to speak, and there's rivalries. And this terrorist group was able to somehow put rockets on an asteroid, send it out to another orbit where it would hit Earth, and it hit Earth.
Crazy.
So, yeah. So it's that's kind of scary when you think about it, that we could do that. But yeah, we don't want to be here if the planet would ever come in contact with.
No.
I mean, even an object, I think according to this, I mean, they're tracking anything bigger than 465 feet or I think it's anything that can cause that can destroy a city or destroy a region or a country.
Oh yeah.
So anything, and it doesn't even really need to be that big to cause that kind of damage. I mean, just
Oh yeah.
a
lot of it's like just
something like 2,000 or 3,000 feet across could cause untold devastation. I can't even imagine what a tsunami would look like if it hit somewhere in the ocean.
Well, scientists believe that for it to be a planet killer, it would have to be about 96 kilometers or 60 miles wide.
Okay, so
60 miles wide. And obviously it could be smaller or bigger, just depending on where it hit.
To kill the planet?
To kill the planet.
Okay, 60 miles.
60 mile wide to kill the planet. Man,
but
that's something.
You can go much lower than that because they say the one that killed the dinosaurs, the Chicxulub asteroid, was about 6.5 miles across.
Mm-hmm.
So it exploded. I can't even an unfathomable amount of energy when it hit the Yucatan, that hit that area.
Oh, let's look at this statistic. If it was a mile-wide asteroid hit the Earth at 30,000 miles an hour, it would be roughly equivalent to a 1 million megaton bomb.
I can't even. You're saying these
numbers? Megaton bomb.
Million ton. No.
1 million megatons.
So 1 million tons of TNT. Is that if I'm understanding, or is it just 1 million tons of
1
TNT?
1 million megatons.
1 million tons of TNT.
Yep, 1 million megatons.
Yep. Oh wow! So now we're talking about a whole
new level, and that's just 1 mile wide. So if it was 60 miles wide,
can you look up what the Chicxulub asteroid, the energy output?
The crazy thing is, I hear these numbers you're saying, I understand, but it's like I can't even fathom what that. Like what that is in relation to.
It was it wasn't a very big asteroid that caused the crater in Arizona. Asteroid, that crater they have out there, that was a very small asteroid that hit.
To me, that was estimated to be 110 miles. And
which one, Chicxulub?
Chicxulub. The crater is 110 miles.
Right,
so
the asteroid itself.
Yeah. Let's see here.
That's a of course we all think of, because that's the one that basically spelled the demise of the dinosaurs.
I'm pretty sure a kiloton is smaller than a megaton.
It is.
Well, just to put things into perspective, he's saying that a mile-wide asteroid would cause 1 million megatons. The bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima was 15 kilotons.
So the Chicxulub asteroid was 3.1 miles.
Okay.
Oh, my gosh.
So it's 3.1 miles. So how much energy?
So potentially 3 million megatons, I guess, is a... Like I said, we're seeing these numbers, but it's nuts to think about this, and
I mean
it's hard to equate this to like you're just saying numbers. It's hard to equate it to like real world statistics.
Now, I don't know what this measurement is, but
it's probably
the Chicxulub impact released as much energy as 100 teratons of TNT, beyond 1 billion times the atomic bomb dropped at Hiroshima.
Yeah.
What's a teraton?
It's bigger than a megaton.
Yeah.
If I was to guess, it probably goes. If I have to guess, it's probably kilotons, megatons, gigatons, and then teratons. And I'm pretty sure it's probably 1,000. So 1,000 gigatons is probably 1 teraton.
Man.
They said it sent tsunamis all the way into all throughout North America. I mean, mile high of water. I mean,
filling the Grand Canyon.
I mean, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine a wall of water that high traveling probably at
Oh yeah,
un
astronomical.
the
Yeah.
amount of speed, at least the speed of sound, which is what 400 or 500 miles an hour, whatever the speed of sound is.
I think it's 6 or 7, maybe not. But well, anyways, what a wild episode this was, talking about space and the doom of us all. I'm obviously joking when I say that. But anyways, you guys have anything else you want to add before we wrap up this episode?
Well, this is definitely a lot different than the episode we did last week.
A little bit. A little hypothesizing.
But I enjoyed this one. I really do. I like this subject. I think there's a lot to talk about here, and I think we're going to be getting into some good topics.
I think it's a nice segue for the great filter coming
Yeah.
up.
Yes. For anybody that was kind of interested in the hypothetical postulation that was this episode, stay tuned, because I do think we have one that's going to be a little bit interesting. For all those of you who may know about the great filter, like if you don't, go ahead and like watch some videos and kind of do some reading on it, because it's pretty interesting. It's a cool idea. It's a cool concept. I'm not even sure if it's real. I don't know how. I've read about it recently and heard about it, and I posed the question, and the guys kind of fell in love with the idea of it. And,
Well, the idea and the concept comes from, why might we be alone?
Right.
Yeah.
It's
Where-
that simple.
Where is all the life in the
Where
universe?
is all the life in the
Right.
universe?
As vast as our galaxy is, and as much as
long as
science has told us there are thousands of Earth-like planets within our own galaxy, why haven't we heard anything?
And it's also like time.
Why are we alone?
Earth has been around for, like you said, billions of years. I know we've only been around for a short period of time in that, but anyways, it's going to
be a good episode.
Great. It's going to be an
great.
interesting topic, and I'm looking forward to doing it.
So stay tuned.
Right.
We got a couple good things coming. We got part 2 to the Madison Brooks. We got the great filter. What else we got coming? We got
supposedly we have some listener submitted questions that want to call in, so I'm kind of interested to see.
Yeah, I'll be very curious
Yeah.
on that. I need to kind of get some more feedback on that to see exactly what. So
kind of a cool idea.
I just recently turned this person onto the podcast. He wasn't following before, now he is, and I'll be very interested to get his take on some of our topics.
Cool stuff. Well, anyways, for anyone out there who is trying to find us or to try to contact us or to ask us any questions, we have a Facebook page /Retrospect Pod, or you can see all of our other links at our link tree /Retrospect Pod as well, where you can see all the different platforms that we host to, or all of the other social media platforms as well.
And also, if I can interject there,
Yeah.
We all love social media, and we like to share a bunch of stuff. And sometimes we share stuff that really is important to anything. But if y'all would consider, maybe the next time you share something, share the podcast. Share it with somebody. Just maybe the next time. It'd have to be every time, just if you think about it, maybe give us a little shout out, a share. Tell somebody about the podcast.
Especially if it resonates with you. If you feel it, if you feel like somebody out there probably love listening to it,
Let them know.
Let
them know. Give us a shout out. Give us a share. We'd appreciate it.
Share the love.
Share the love.
Share the love.
Yeah. But anyways, until next week, thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone. God bless.
You're the best. Peace.